Oh, I want to go bump and grind a stranger so bad.
I want somebody to like spill a drink on me. I would be so happy. I'd be like,
it's none of our business. 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 It's none of our business.
hello, welcome everybody to the It's Really None of Our Business podcast. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Monica.
Can you guys tell there's something different here?
What could it be?
Monica has COVID and can't be near me.
Yeah, you know, Amanda has the vid. I would never get it. You know, it's not, and you know what? It's not that we're even like being good and saying, oh, we can't see each other because of COVID, because we're both kind of rebels, and you know, as you guys know, we kind of sneak into each other's homes and record anyways.
Yeah.
But we're just too lazy to get to each other's homes. So here we are actually recording remotely.
Yeah, we thought it's kind of like a two-parter. We thought we would try this out and see how it works. And also like the week doesn't work. Monica went out of town. I'm going out of town next week. We didn't want to travel to record. So
I know. And I just came back from Vancouver. So first of all, right now it is February the 8th and we're talking from Calgary, Alberta, and it is so fucking cold outside.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think people realize how awful it is here. Like minus 32 or something with the wind chill. Like, it's just insane what it is right now.
This is one of those days I'm like really grateful to work from home. Like, do you remember the cold snap we got last year? I remember I parked my car about 5 minutes from our office, and on my lunch break, I was walking to the car just to start it because I was worried it wouldn't start at the end of the day. Like that's
yeah, and not only that, you were wearing your snowsuit and your toque and your mitts, and we could hear you because you hear this the snowsuit sound.
Like, you know, it's like freezing when it's a 5-minute walk. Like that's nothing, and I had to wear snow pants or I was like dead. So.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like I used to live in on the coast, and that's where I just came from. And no matter how much rain it got, I would say, well, at least I won't die if I go outside. But you walk outside and, you know, like, isn't there like a frostbite warning? Like, how long till you're dead?
Yeah.
Like, like, would it be if you walked outside without a jacket on 10 minutes and you're dead?
You've got long-term injuries for sure. And it just makes you want to go on vacation, but
we can't.
It's illegal.
But my sister's going on vacation.
Tell me about that. Where is she going?
She's going to Mexico. She's flying next week.
Those flights have all been canceled, I thought.
Wow, Canada's not flying into Mexico, but you can fly Canada, US, Mexico. Those you can still go. And then there's that whole, like, I just don't get it, because there's that. Okay, so from what I'm hearing about the new rules are, when you fly home, there's a mandatory 3-day hotel quarantine.
Yeah.
But she's convinced that that's all bullshit and it's illegal and it's not going to happen. So,
well, it should be illegal. I actually have a friend whose cousin it happened to. She flew her 20-year-old son home. He was living, I think, in the States for the past 2 years. But because of everything going on, she was like, I just want him home. And, you know, let's get him home before all these new rules happen with, like, they were hearing Trudeau was quarantining people in hotels and whatever. And it was supposed to start February 1st or something like that.
Yeah.
So she got him home a day or two before that at the airport. They took him away, didn't tell her where he was going. She was like, I'm a reasonable person. Like, all they had to do was say because apparently he didn't have the right COVID test. She got him a COVID test, the one that she thought was the right one, but apparently it wasn't the right test. So because of that, and they didn't tell her that was the reason, she found that out later. They said, sorry about your luck. Your son is coming with us. Well, where's he going? We can't tell you. She said the border agents put their hands up like this and went, sorry. Like,
how old is this kid?
He was 20.
Okay.
But so it's not like he was a minor or anything, but it's still like, what the and I've heard of it happening to somebody's wife. Like she was coming back from a work trip and the exact same thing happened. And they take them somewhere and they don't tell them your family where they're going. And it was, I think, 3 days. He ended up getting 3 negative tests and he was able to be let go. And she was on Facebook posting this whole story because it was like she said, I'm a reasonable person. If you would have said you guys didn't get the right COVID test, we're going to take him to this hotel until we're sure he's negative. Don't worry, he'll be fed, he'll be fine. She would
So
have been
who
like,
had to pay for the test? Like for the hotel stay, did he end up having to pay?
yeah, they had to pay for all of it.
Wow.
The thing that really makes it crazy is the secrecy and how they're not telling anybody what's going on. And it's and everybody's like, not my fault, not my decision. I'm just following the rules. And it's like, well, who's making these fucking insane rules? Like, it's actually this kind of stuff like puts a really bad taste in my mouth. Like, did you
It
watch
does.
The Handmaid's Tale?
Yes, I was just thinking, oh my God, before you know it, they're gonna take away our bank accounts because we're women, Amanda.
I keep thinking of that scene where she's at the coffee shop or whatever, and all of a sudden her money doesn't work. And it's like, this is how this shit starts. It's actually kind of terrifying.
Well, and it is worldwide, it's not just, concentrated area like on The Handmaid's Tale, but I agree. And the more things that go on, and now they're talking about new vaccines and they're talking about new strains, and it just makes me go like, well, is the vaccine going to do the new strain? And they're like, oh, maybe. And I'm just like, this is just like every week that goes by, there's something new and it's just completely fucked.
It's starting to feel like very like this is how it starts. Like, all of a sudden we're in The Handmaid's Tale and we're looking back. Do you remember when we didn't think it was that big of a deal that our rights were being taken away?
Yeah. And then we had to sneak over to each other's houses.
Like, at least now we just have fear of fines. Like, soon it's going to be fear of death. Like, they're going to be outside our houses with guns. I don't know. It's
fear of jail. They'll take all the naughty COVID people that don't listen and they'll put them all in jail.
I'm at the point I don't give a fuck anymore. Like, I am seriously like, everybody come over. And but the thing is, so we booked, okay, our friends messaged us and they said, hey, do you guys want to go book an Airbnb in BC? And I said, what's the point? Nothing's open. And he's like, no, BC's actually open. Like, and I thought of you. I'm like, oh, she was just there. Yeah, good point. Okay, maybe that's a good idea. Yeah. So we found a decent deal and we booked it thinking, okay, this is going to be fun. Well, I called the ski hill because I was wanting to get Colton lessons. They very politely told me that we weren't welcome on the hill.
Why?
Because we're from Alberta. Like, they only want locals. And I was like, I do understand, like, it's a small town we're going to, fair enough. But what about if we were to just get lift tickets and just go as a family? He goes, when you go to buy your tickets, you'll see a lot of pop-ups like advising you not to. Like, and I'm like, so you're pretty much telling me we're not welcome? He's like, yeah, my staff just aren't really comfortable. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, I know a guy, actually Ernest, he is living in Nelson right now. So I phoned him and I had a really brief conversation with him because I was busy. I had to let him go. But I was like, what is the vibe there? Like, he's like, oh no, I'm definitely not welcome. So I'm like, we're not even going to be able to go to restaurants because if people see our license plate, he's like, oh yeah, it's bad. Like, you don't want people to know you're from Alberta here. I'm like,
rent a car. When you
honestly,
get there.
Like, because
rental cars are super, super cheap right now. I just rented a car for 4 days in Vancouver and it cost me $90 or something. Like, it was stupid how cheap it was.
That's actually not a bad idea.
I went to restaurants when I was out and nobody said anything.
You were in a bigger cities. I think bigger cities are a little more like, it just doesn't matter as much. Whereas the small towns are like, get your COVID
It is
out
true.
of here.
It is true. You're right.
And I'm like, it's actually, if you think about it, when it comes to a human level, like, I keep saying this, we're pack animals. We're supposed to be together. We're like the whole like divisiveness of like,
I was just going to say that,
us against them against us. Like, we hate people from Alberta. Like, they're dirty. They have COVID. It's like, the fuck? I sit at home all day. I don't have COVID.
Like, yeah. Well, like if you think about it, like what's going on in the world right now, politics wise, it's your left or your right. And then like in the US too, it's state by state. And in Canada, it's province by province. It's like Alberta doesn't associate with BC. And if we dare see someone from Ontario or Toronto or Quebec, we're like, send those dirty Quebecers home with their COVID. But we're all Canadians, like we are all one. And it just like, it's crazy to me what's going on. Like, you're absolutely right.
Even within our city, you think about people like, okay, so like people are posting on my community Facebook page, the classic one. I haven't seen this post in a while, but at the beginning of COVID was like, when people are out for walks, why can't they just give me space? Like, I need, my 6 feet when I'm walking my dog, blah, blah, blah. Like, people are bitching about it. And I'm like, this is actually fucked. Like, people are supposed to be near each other. We're supposed to be a community. Like, you're not supposed to be like, humans, don't touch me. Like, it actually, like, what is happening to people is we're scared to shake hands. We're scared to touch people. Like, God forbid you give a stranger a hug. That'll never happen.
No,
Like,
you wouldn't. Like, you don't even shake hands anymore.
no, I'm like, next thing you know, we won't be smiling. No eye contact. No, you know what I mean? Like, this kind of shit is
Okay,
actually.
now seriously. So I just spent 3 weeks in a hotel, right? So it's a fairly large hotel I was in. And if nobody would go into an elevator together, which I get, right? You're only supposed to have 2 in an elevator, and everybody would just like, nope, only 1 person in an elevator. That's fine. But there was a gym in the hotel, which I went to. And every time I went in there, the person in the gym who was there, and there was only like 3 pieces of equipment and some weights, they totally ignored you. They would just focus in on what they're doing and not even look at you. Like,
No good morning or
no, nothing, like no acknowledgement, just sort of like eyes down. We don't acknowledge one another. And I'm just like, is it me? I mean,
could have been your funky smell, but
well, I just got there.
honestly, like, Monica, this kind of stuff really does worry me for humankind. Like, it sounds dramatic, but like, it's kind of freaky. Like, people were already living in these isolated bubbles where we would, especially those of us who live in the suburbs, we would drive to work in our car by ourselves.
Yeah.
We would sit in our office by ourselves, maybe talk to a couple people during the day, get back in your car by yourself, drive home, hang out with your family, sit on your couch, look at your phone, think that you're involved in the world because you're reading Twitter and all this shit. But really, you're by yourself. You don't have a community. I heard this stat, maybe like a year ago or something. And it was like, in the 70s, if you had an emergency, like I need help right now, most people could list like 5 people that would drop everything and like come help them, whether family, friends, whatever.
Or your neighbors, because you knew all your neighbors.
Totally. Yeah. They did that same study recently, and a lot of people don't even have one person that they can call to help them. And like, you and I are different. Like, I know I'd have lots of people, but people, like, as a society, we are isolating ourselves. Think of how many people don't have neighbors, friends. And like, imagine now, like, it's just gotten worse. Like, this is actually terrifying for the humanity, the culture of humans. Like, we are not meant to be alone in our homes with just
so then what do you think? Like, what is your prediction if the whole cycle of COVID goes away, we all get our immunization, and now what? Like, do we now come out and go, I don't think so. Like, my feeling is that we are now, like, for the next, if COVID ends tomorrow, it's going to take years for people to.
Yeah, it's gone too long. I think, I really do think it's gone too long. If it went, it started in March, if it would have been, by June, we were back to normal. That's a short enough time. People would be back to normal. But, and I do think that if COVID were to end tomorrow and we were allowed to go back to our normal lives, there are a big chunk of people that would just pretend nothing had ever happened and be back in the nightclub bumping and grinding strangers.
Oh, I want to go bump and grind a stranger so bad.
I want somebody to like spill a drink on me. I would be so happy. I'd be like, but
random hugs from strangers, those things.
The majority of people, I think, are still going to be hesitant to be around people. They are. Even like friends, you'll be like, did you wash your hands? Like, which is fair questions, I suppose, but like, fuck.
Yeah, it's fair, but I'm over it. I'm over it. That's all I have to say about it. I'm just so fucking tired of this. And we talk about it almost every week, and is it over yet? But it seems to be getting worse, not better, right?
I agree. It's actually like, but I was kind of like, oh, whatever, take it as it is. It's kind of fun hanging out with my family, and
I'm over it. I'm over my family. I just want
anyways,
to hang out with you and drink wine. That's what I want to do.
except I'm drinking and you're not, you nerd.
Yeah, you know why? It's because you're the wine pourer in this relationship. And if you're not opening up a box, I'm thinking, oh, am I really going to open up my own bottle of wine on what kind of alcoholic am I on a Monday night?
I don't.
Get into the program.
That's the thing with COVID is there are no rules. You can get
And
fat.
there really are no days. It's all one big day.
Groundhog Day over
Again. So I was in Vancouver area for the last 3 weeks, as you know, and I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and I was talking to, I could say remotely or no, but are you allowed to hang out with people? I don't know. Probably not. Okay. I was illegally hanging out with somebody, but I could sit in a restaurant with them if I wanted to, or go to a mall.
Go to a mall is fine.
Oh, and I got my hair done when I was there because they're open, which is very exciting. But so anyways, back to my story. I was talking to this friend of mine's her niece, and she was there, 20 years old. And we got into the wine, and you know me, like I'm always asking questions and shit, kind of like you. And she started talking like she's on her phone. And I'm like, oh, you talking to a boy? And she's like, yeah. And then so she started telling me that she's into this kink called big and little. So as
Tell
a
me
girl,
more.
yeah, like, okay, so it really had me puzzled. It had me really concerned because it's like this, as a young woman, so she's 20, she gets involved with people that she would consider big. So she would be little, meaning that she would resort back to being 6 years old. And she finds people, daddies,
Oh no.
or bigs, to propagate this sort of kink, right? And I see the look on your face, and I'm just really trying hard not to have that very same look, because as soon as you do, you shut down communication. And I just said, okay,
I
well,
wouldn't do the look to her.
yeah, but it's like, so my question is, okay, so the whole big and little fantasy, like, I mean, I got into like, what does that mean? And it means things like, you don't necessarily have to bring it into the bedroom, but most people do. But it involves like the daddy would do things like cut up your grapes really small so you didn't choke, or tuck you into bed and give you stuffies and be entertained, like really, so that you become like, there's this feeling of nurturing, right? In this. So what's in it for the girl? Well, like she had a terrible childhood where she, like just a terrible traumatic childhood where she wasn't nurtured, right? So I'm like, okay, I understand what you're getting out of this. And I said, do you know what you're getting out of this? Do you realize that you are just looking at your baby self and you were trying to love her? And I said, you need to love her because you're not going to get it from this daddy. And I said, what do you think that they're getting out of it? Was my question. And she said, well, I don't know. I guess they really like to nurture. So, first of all, she started telling me about this guy that she was seeing who was in his 30s, who got her like really drunk and then sexually assaulted her. And I'm like a man, 35 years old,
Was
does
he like,
not.
was he one of the big guys? Like she got to know him because
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's obviously not always like this, but in my mind, I'm thinking a man in his 30s, or even like the guy that she was texting was 29 and she was 20. And it's the same dynamic of, I want to take care of you. But I just have such a hard time with that, Amanda, because I see it as predatory. So if a man is interested in being with somebody and cutting up their grapes and pretending that she's a child, is it not just because he wants to fuck a child?
yeah. Okay, so like you asked if it goes into the bedroom, and she said usually does. Like
Well, sometimes. She says not always, but sometimes. And so I think that
what
I
does it
said,
mean?
so well, she says it's not doesn't always happen during sex, but maybe after sex. So after sex, then he would tuck her in with teddy bears and put on a Disney movie for her. And
Ugh,
yeah.
that's really actually like it makes me want to cry for everybody
Yes.
involved.
Yeah. And I did have a little bit of a cry while I was there, to be honest with you. I just had this moment of like so much pain for that girl, like I just wanted to
Like I'll nurture you. You don't have to fuck me.
yeah.
I'll nurture you if that's what you need.
Yeah.
Like that's what she needs. She needs like a
I
friend or
know.
like a mother figure like to nurture her. She doesn't need like nurture should not equal sex. Like I don't think that they should be connected. Like, well, I don't know. Like there can be a nurturing guy who's like, "Oh, here, let me, tuck you
So
in."
this is
But like
this is the whole fetish thing that we were talking about at one point. Like they all come from a sexual place, right? And so
mhm.
if this is your thing that turns you on, that gets you going, like like I don't understand it. It seems to me like you're damaging yourself with this fetish, but like I would just suggest some counseling to find out what you need in your life to help you love yourself and know your worth, because like
So do you know for her like how she started? Like did she go searching for this or did she find
yeah, yeah,
somebody?
yeah, yeah. You
Oh,
search for it. Like you can go on these websites, and she did give me the name of it. Where you actually search for your big or your daddy, and you were the little, little being LIL, it's a thing, and you will find your partner. Just like if you're into feet, you'll find your
yeah.
like like I don't know how Fet Life works, but I'm imagining that you would just there'd be classifications of kinks, right?
I
So they're
guess
easy to find.
if it's consensual and everybody is getting, they've all agreed to the terms, and like I guess who is it hurting? The only thing is like then you mention he got her really drunk and ended up whatever. Like so I just wonder like what kind of sexually like a normal, I don't want to say normal, like just like a mature, I don't know. The only word I can think of right now is normal. Like what kind of guy who like has normal feelings that aren't like a little like there's
Well,
no
he wouldn't.
malice behind it. Like why what would he be getting out of that? Like other than this power thing, like I don't
Well, I think it also comes from childhood trauma. And so the guy that she happened to be talking to, I said, what was his childhood like? And he's like, oh, very, it could be the opposite side of the same coin. Like if you also were not nurtured as a child and not loved and not valued, you may just want to turn that around and love and nurture somebody
I could
small.
100% that's where it comes from. It makes perfect sense to me. It just kind of
Yeah.
like I don't know, you think of like people that are like sexually abused and sexual assault and all that stuff in the terms of like, forcing somebody and rape and all that, but there's so many other ways to do it and this is one of them. Like it's just
Yeah.
uh it
It's
like
predatory behavior,
it's
right? Like that's
exactly
what you're seeing, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
But that's what
And,
the
and that is from me looking in, not knowing anything about it. Like I did a tiny bit of reading on it before we started, and it said that the little person is really the one in control. Like she often behaves really bratty, and she's the one who's in control of whether they have sex or whether they don't have sex. But I fail to see it in a power dynamic when you're giving your power to somebody else, how that person, like I don't want to have power over you or somebody else, and I don't understand that. I don't understand why you would.
and like there's a like I can understand some of the people that are in that dom
Yeah,
world, like the dom
sure.
submissive world. It's a similar
It
idea.
is the same. It is the same thing. It is a submissive position.
But once you all of a sudden turn it into a child,
Yeah.
that's when it gets kind of like not okay because I just like, if you're envisioning this person as a child, like what if it was a child? And then all of a sudden you're going to be messaging 16-year-olds and 14-year-olds and
Well,
10-year-olds.
sure,
Like,
sure. I
and
agree.
it's like I've been sexually fantasizing about this for years. People have been playing out these fantasies with me for years. It's gonna, like, you get addicted and you always want more when it comes to that kind of stuff, you know? So the last thing, it works for at first, and then all of a sudden it's not working anymore. You need younger, you need brattier, you need.
But I don't know. Like maybe you could just be okay with just that scenario.
No, I think those things always change. Like, I've listened to lots of people talk about those kind of fetishes and stuff, and like that's where it starts. Like, Nikki Glazer is a comedian, and she's really into, like, the only way she can get off is watching like fucked up porn where like the woman is getting like gang raped. And she's been really honest with this. Like, she's went on the Joe Rogan podcast and talked about it. Like, but it started with, she would just watch like, a guy kind of like forcefully having sex with this girl, and then that didn't do it for her anymore, and then all of a sudden she needed something weirder with like choking, and then she needed four guys on one girl, and then she needed guys like fucking like, totally demeaning her while
Now,
they have.
did she say whether she's ever participated?
No, she hasn't.
Or she didn't say anyways,
No,
right?
I don't think she has. Like, I think because she like she's fully aware that it's like a weird thing that she is going on, and she actually doesn't have a lot of sex. Like, she's been very honest about like her whole
Like I
thing.
wonder what happened to her to make her
Well,
feel that
she
way.
she does say it's one of the reasons is because she feels like she doesn't deserve to come. So her fantasy is like, somebody's tying me up and forcing me to, and I don't have a choice. So it's not embarrassing when I come. Because in her mind, it's kind of like
No.
embarrassing if you're like trying to come. She's like, then I look too eager. She's like, I want somebody to force me to do it. Like, they're forcing me to enjoy it. But that is where it started from. But because there's so much fucked up shit on the internet, she's like into like, she's fully admitted, she's like, the shit I watch is fucked up, but it's the only way I can get off now, because, and she's,
Crazy.
yeah, like, that's how these things go. Like, they start and they just escalate, because you're always, it's like, you can relate it to anything in life, like with exercise. Like, I used to be okay with like, I don't know, getting a little bit sore. Now I'm like, it's not a workout.
I was okay with walking around the block, and
Yeah.
now
Now my legs need to be wobbling and I need to lift like a certain amount of weight, or it's not even a workout. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the
yeah.
same. I don't know. That's a bad example, but you know what I mean?
Well, it's like a sort of like like a drug. Like if you wanna say an addictive quality, like if you start doing cocaine and you start stuffing a little bit up your nose, and then you need more, and then you need more, and then you need heroin, and then you
Yeah.
just need another hit. And that, it sounds to me like in sex, it's the same thing. It's because it is a hit of dopamine, right? Like that
Yeah.
sexual feeling. So I'm thinking that could be
Like,
what it is.
so that's the thing that really does worry me with that fetish you're talking about. And I hope that that girl that is like, she needs some therapy. I don't know. I hope she's okay.
Yeah, I just said to her, like, I just want to mom you so hard right now, because that's how I
Does she
feel. But
have a mom? Like a mom in her life?
no, like she has a mother, but a very, very bad mother, so
Ever since I had kids, man, like, I look at everybody who's like, you used to be a child, and I just feel like so much more compassion for people and stuff. And like,
yeah, it is a big thing when we realize that you were fucking up your kids right now, Amanda. I've
dude,
already fucked mine up.
like, I'm trying so hard not to. Like, I think about how you told me I was mean to Colton the other day. I've told that story a million times now. I'm like, she's right. Like,
Yeah, I am. And it's only because I've got a couple years on you, like one or two.
yeah, you're
That
not that much older. I don't know. I feel like I'm good most of the time. I had a dance party with Kenna today, but it was
Aw.
mostly because I wanted to get my steps in. I was like, sure, I'll
You know
dance with you,
what?
watching my watch. I'm like, couple more dances.
Kids are so great. They used to have like was it an Xbox? What was the thing before the Xbox where you danced on it? Dance Revolution. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's what I used to do with my kids. I was a good mom too. Dance, dance, revolution. And then you'd have to like do the steps. I
Yeah,
loved
totally. It's so funny.
it. So we need a what the fuck.
It's called wine and what the fuck.
Yeah, well, for me it's buble. What the fuck?
Okay, I know you have a good one, Monica. So this week's wine and what the fuck. What do you got for us?
All right. Let actually see. And it does sort of go with our kinks.
It's funny
on
because
the-
people have commented like your new podcast is like a lot about sex, and I'm like, we didn't plan for that to happen, but somehow every week.
Well, and I think maybe because sex is really interesting. I mean, it's not something
Yeah.
that we talk about. Well, I guess we do talk about it with most people. So
Yeah, you and I do.
I guess it's something that just interests us. And I think it interests other people too.
I think so. Let
All
us know,
our,
you
like,
guys. Do we
All our
talk about sex too much?
100,000 viewers, they all think that it's interesting. Right? Okay. So this is my what the fuck this week. So last month I saw my son sniffing my underwear and I ignored that. And yesterday I did some snooping around in my son's room and I found numerous pairs of my underwear. I want to confront him, but I don't want him to feel embarrassed. I'm aware it's a sign of a sexual fantasy or curiosity. What should I do?
Okay, do we know how old the son is?
Yes, because it was asked in the questions, because it was the first thing I thought too, because I'm thinking, is he 8? Like,
Yeah.
because that's gonna, but no, he was 16 years old. Now, this
Okay.
is one of those questions that you're like, is this real? Like, is this real? Because like, oh my, like you saw your kid sniffing your panties? Like,
So did you walk in and he's in your laundry basket, or like,
and then you found more panties in your room? Like, first of all, this kid's not very clever. Like, wouldn't you hide that?
well, maybe because she might have, like, I don't know. You can hide things all you want in your room. If I want to find it, I'll find it. Like if you're my kid, right? So maybe he put it in a drawer or something. Like
Yeah.
he only has to go to school for, a day and she could find whatever he's gotten hidden. So maybe he did try to hide it. It doesn't really matter. But I'm wondering, like, did he, like, they're all obviously dirty. Like he's going through her laundry basket before they get washed. And is it a curiosity thing? Because like, I do understand curiosity, right? Like he doesn't have a vagina. He doesn't know what the smell is. Maybe he's like, but that's what I'm saying. Like one time, like, I don't know.
No.
You're right. I don't know. Like, have you ever sniffed your own panties?
Maybe.
Exactly. So it's a curiosity thing, right? It's like, oh, what does that smell like?
And you're
It's
like,
not like you
pretty
like,
nasty. So there you go.
pardon?
Said pretty nasty.
Yeah. Well, like but okay, so you know what they smell like, but they're yours, so it doesn't matter. It's like you can smell yourself. It's not weird. So like if you were to smell something, like maybe he got a whiff one day, maybe he's doing her laundry, what is this? But to take them and like have them in your room and it's like a thing like that, he is developing a fetish. Like that's the kind of people that buy.
So
underwear.
what would you do, Amanda? What would you do? What's your advice to this woman?
I feel like you have to have that conversation. It's going to be awkward as fuck, but
what are you going to say? Like what angle do you come at?
I don't know. And I think it depends on your child and like how you talk to them anyways. But I think in a perfect world, what I would do is, hey, Colton, I noticed some underwear in your room. And I just wanted to ask, like, is there a reason you're like, are you just curious? Like whatever. And he's going to go, no, it's fine. I don't know. Nothing. Like he'll just be embarrassed. And I don't really know how the conversation will go from there, but I don't know. Like what?
I think for me, I would focus on the boundaries, like it's even when your kids are little, like boundaries are super important. And I'd be just like, I don't even know if I would go into it with my son about fetishes. It's just like, it's inappropriate behavior. Like even when children are little and they do something inappropriate, like they start playing the game, I'll show you mine and I'll show you mine, whatever. You just say, well, that behavior is inappropriate. And so we just don't do it in this family.
Yeah.
And I like with a 16-year-old, I would just have to say, like, my stuff is my stuff. And this
Yeah.
is personal to me. And it is an offense to me when I see it in your room because you
Yeah.
are crossing boundaries. And here's the therapist that I'm taking you to. Like,
I feel like I would have so many questions. Like, how did this start? Like, but honestly, that is probably where fetishes start. And he's probably going to have a lifelong panty fetish. Like,
yes. And there's money in this. And we've talked about this. Like, any idea how much a person can make selling their panties?
I don't know, but I know like there's definitely money to be made for sure. Actually, there's a guy that we both know, and I'll tell you offline. Were you there for that conversation? He was telling us about it at a Stampede party. He has a guy that he worked with that met his wife by buying her panties.
No.
There was like a website or something, and somehow they got linked up, and somehow he knew who she was, and he kept ordering them, and because he liked them so much, they ended up meeting, and I'm pretty sure they're married now, if I remember the story correctly. Like,
wow, that's
so
crazy.
what does that tell you? Okay, so there's like the whole pheromones thing, and like your scent is supposed to be like super, like even like BO and stuff, like you're supposed to really like it of like the person that you're with. That goes to show that that shit is real.
But I think that there's some value in that. I mean, have you ever been with the person and you're like, well, you just don't, like, even if you kiss them and you're like, you don't kiss right, or you just don't smell right. Not necessarily that they stink,
That's
but
the
that
thing.
you just,
Like, that's definitely a human nature quality, is that you're attracted to the smell of your mate, right? So even if like doesn't have to be anything, like if Carson's just out of the shower, there's like something about him, I'm like, you know, like that's like a very common normal thing. And it's just funny, like the smell, like your dirty panties is like so attractive to the person, and then they finally meet you, they're like,
but human nature is also that we are repelled by our siblings. Like there's something genetically in our coding that makes it so that like for instance, I have many male cousins, and I have never once thought, hey, like I just, it's brother, you know?
You smell like their pheromones. Like if you give them a hug, it's kind of like, you kind of.
It's like hugging my brother. Like that's the amount of feeling that I have is, and the same with mother and son. That has to be like okay. So for instance, my son and daughter, like Amanda's gorgeous and 25 and Johnny's 22, and Amanda's constantly walking around naked and shit, and Johnny's response is always like, oh, for fuck's sake, put on some clothes. Like there's this, oh, gross, I can see my sister's butt, that's disgusting. And so, and I think that honestly is natural human behavior, because genetically we can't mix that shit up.
I have a story though, which I don't know, this is like, my kids are so little, but like they're best friends, right? So they're 6 and 4. Colton's 6, McKenna's 4. They love each other. They hang out every day. Colton thinks McKenna is the funniest person in the world. Like he just loves her. She loves him. It's like a thing.
Yeah.
I was driving him to school a few months ago, and he was really quiet in the car. And then all of a sudden he goes, Mom, is it really illegal to marry your sister? And I was like, yeah, like, why do you ask? And he goes, no reason. And I was like, you want to marry McKenna? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, Colton, like the reason most people get married is because they want to spend time with somebody and they want to be with their best friend. I'm like, there's nothing illegal about being best friends with Kenna. You can be best friends with her forever. And he goes, okay. But then he's brought it up like one other time. And I'm like, like, why?
Yeah, but is that any different than, I mean, often a son wants to marry his mom for a really long time, right?
Yeah.
Because the person that they love so much, like they can't imagine, because they're not sexual.
Yeah, they don't know what marry really is. It's like, I just thought it was like so funny how sad he was. Like he didn't really talk the whole rest of the car ride because he was just like sad that he couldn't marry his sister. I was like, you can still be best friends with her, buddy. Like that's the only, like,
you know,
that's the
then you
best-
do the whole, well, you can still live with her for the rest of your life, you know, like if you guys want to be friends forever, we'll all live together as a family. And because they don't understand the concept of you getting older, of
Yeah.
them getting older. So
I remember even being like 12 and not being able to imagine not living with my parents. Like I remember
Yeah.
just being like, what? Like, because you can't think outside yourself at that age. So
like I do remember that I must have been younger than 12 because I'm much more mature than you.
yeah.
But I do remember thinking, well, who's going to take care of me? Who's going to buy my clothes? Like I do remember that thought
Yeah.
at 8 or 9 or something, you know. And I think my parents probably said, "Oh, I'll just buy your clothes forever. Don't worry about it."
Don't fret about this.
Taxes? What do you mean I have to pay taxes? I don't want to pay taxes.
To get a job?
I just want to sit home and watch cartoons.
Colton told me he wants to be a pie maker the other day. I was like, that's your job you want to be? And then the other day he goes, you know, I changed my mind. I don't think I'm going to be very good at making pies. Maybe I should be a policeman. I was like, okay.
That's a big shift. You could be a pie making policeman. It's fine.
You do you, boo. You do you.
Well, this has been another exciting episode.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Remember, if you're enjoying this content, go on the YouTube channel and comment on our videos. Comment in the Facebook group about the conversations. What else, Monica?
Tell us what else you want to hear. Like if there's something that you want us to talk about that maybe you don't want to say yourself, we'll talk about anything. Like there
That's
probably
true.
isn't any topic off limit that we won't talk about. And we may laugh at you.
But we'll keep it anonymous. Don't worry.
Yeah. And we'll say, my friend Joe.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.
Ciao. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to It's Really None of Our Business podcast with Monica and Amanda. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, you know all the places. If you've enjoyed this podcast, tell your friends, and please rate and review us where you can. If you are brave enough to reach out and ask us for advice, we will definitely read it out on our show. We'll totally keep your name anonymous, so what do you got to lose? You can reach us by email at ask.noneofourbusiness@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing from you guys soon. Ciao.